For calendaring this very important House resolution, important to my constituents in Paranaque, to the other resource persons, the other members of the committee, yung mga kapitbahay ko sa BF. This is House Resolution number 1078, which I filed March 31. It pertains to the problem of water in one area in BF Homes. This is for Park Lane BF Homes, but this is exemplary because what affects Park Lanes will affect the entire BF Homes. So whatever the decision will be on El Grande for the benefit of residents of Park Lane will affect all of BF Homes Paranaque. The title of the resolution, Mr. Chairman, is condemning the interference made by BF Homes Incorporated in the excavation construction works to put up a water distribution network being undertaken by Maynilad Water Services at El Grande BF Homes for the benefit of residents of Park Lane BF Homes. And I would like to beg the patience and indulgence of everybody because this is a 20-year problem, as already stated, and I will require a few minutes to explain the entire problem in a comprehensive way. In the next slide, you can see the text of my House resolution, and can we have the next slide, please? Mr. Chairman, this is the photo. Mr. Chairman, this is the photo of the big rally in UBF High Park. This is probably the biggest indignation rally ever held in BF Homes Paranaque, as far as I can remember. It's very difficult to gather a group like this in BF Homes, even in a political party, political rally. It's very difficult. It shows you the degree of indignation on the part of residents of BF Homes, both not only Paranaque residents, but from Muntinlupa and in Las Piñas. You can see the very angry faces of the rallies there. Mr. Chairman, I would like to cite Republic Act number 8975, which is entitled An Act to Ensure the Expeditious Implementation and Completion of Government Infrastructure Projects by prohibiting lower courts from issuing temporary restraining orders, preliminary injunctions, or preliminary mandatory injunctions providing penalties for violations thereof, enacted into law on November 7, 2000. And when it speaks of national government projects, it refers to all current and future national government infrastructure, engineering works, and service contracts. And when we say service contracts, it means it refers to infrastructure projects entered into by any department, office, or agency of the national government, including the MWSS, with private entities, including the Maynilad, and non-government organizations for services related to or incidental to the functions and operations of the department. And of course, it says also, Section 4 of Republic Act number 8975, providing for the nullity of writs and orders issued in violation of said law. It is stated that any temporary restraining order, preliminary injunction, or preliminary mandatory injunction issued in violation of Section 3 thereof is void and of no force and effect. Because the problem here is the TRO or injunction issued by a judge in Las Piñas. I also would like to cite Commonwealth Act number 146, the Public Service Law. This is the one mandated whenever the facts and circumstances on the strength of which said certificate was issued have been misrepresented or materially changed. The Commission, the Public Service Commission, is empowered under the Commonwealth Act to suspend or revoke any certificate issued under the provisions of this Act. But of course, the Public Service Law has been overtaken by other laws, and right now, the Public Service Law, as far as our understanding is now being implemented by the National Water Resources Board pursuant to Executive Order number 124 issued January 30, 1987, and the NWRB, Mr. Chairman, it regulates private water utilities, covers subdivisions, private water operators, resettlement areas, etc., etc., covering 78 provinces and 115 cities nationwide. And I enumerated the various functions and responsibilities of the NWRB. Mr. Chairman, water is not just a public utility concern. It is not just a legal concern. It is also, very importantly, a human rights concern. And I would like to brief this body on the human rights aspect of water. The United Nations human rights agencies, regional human rights bodies, and the wealth of jurisprudence from national and local courts have all interpreted the right to water as being implicit under other human rights, such as the right to life, the right to an adequate standard of living, and the right to health. The right to water in the international human rights law, explicit reference to the right to water, has been made in 2 of the 6 core international human rights treaties: the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women in 1979, on the Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1989, and also in one of the regional human rights instruments, the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child in 1990. UN human rights treaties, Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, this is very clear, and I would like to quote: to enjoy adequate living conditions, particularly in relation to housing, sanitation, electricity, and water supply. With respect to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, again, I would like to stress that in 1989 it states, the state parties recognize the right of the child to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health, and it enumerates a number of important aspects to include to combat disease and malnutrition, including within the framework of primary health care through inter alia, the application of readily available technology, and through the provision of adequate nutritious foods and clean drinking water. And finally, under the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child in 1990 again, it is stressed to ensure the provision of adequate nutrition and safe drinking water. And the recognition of the right to water is now also reflected in other international legislation concerning water. For instance, in 2001, the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe adopted the European Charter on Water Resources. Article 5 is entitled, "Everyone has the right to a sufficient quantity of water for his or her basic needs," and provides international human rights instruments recognize